now what do I, you know what I always used to find that I still know today is to be my benefit is that to strive. There was 10 years ago I thought about if I ever won the lotto, that would be the worst thing could happen because it would take away my need to strive better.
Sure.
I will get what I think I need, and what I don't need is success. I need a strive for betterment, and there's a difference between a strive.
When did you have that? When was the first time you had that awareness?
20 years ago.
Well, I was going to say that is very great because so many. Having that awareness is the biggest thing to over. I mean, you've already done most of the work to have that. Yeah.
So now here's what I also kind of understand is that once you've mastered something, you have no business doing it anymore. And I remember hearing that and kind of like, what do you mean? You're finally good at it.
Yeah,
What
right.
do you mean you shouldn't do it?
That's
They
really
say you should always be a freshman, never a senior. Because then you're always striving. You become teachable, and you become a little bit more malleable, and you become, better learned. I think I know I got it. Then I'm rigid on any new ideas that come in.
I think the thing going back to the famous people is they stop, because they arrive.
They've arrived, and then
their ego knows they've arrived. Their spirit
So then all of a sudden that blissfulness that we think is coming through money and cars, that blissfulness becomes dull.
Yes.
And where do you go?
Yeah. Oh, right.
Where do you go?
Yes.
You're already at the top.
If more is better,
Where do you go?
Where do you get more from?
So they're looking for euphoria. They're
Yes,
looking for now.
exactly.
So they'll go to drugs and stuff because they have everything in the material. They have all the money they want.
So if they drop below the line, if they're arriving just becomes okay, then it just diminishes. There's
and a lot of people, even the famous people, they get stuck with okay.
They get stuck with
because they feel like this is what life is.
That's
I got everything.
Yeah, the Beatles. Who was that guy? George Harrison.
George Harrison.
He got all into meditation because he said,
Yes.
I mean, they were the most famous.
They were more popular than Jesus.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and he that's why he turned to spirituality.
Yes,
That's when he had his awakening and he felt whole because of that. And they said they did a statistic that in the old days, probably 30 years ago, fame, when they asked what people would want to be when they grew up, or if fame was at the bottom.
Well, John Lennon, that famous quote where the teacher asked him what he wants to be, and he said happy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And he thought, and marked it wrong. That's not what I'm asking you.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And first of all, there's a quote that says, never is there enough of what you think you want. It's a bottomless pit that can never be filled.
Yes.
And that the more, if it's based on the tangible, so I could put so much in the bucket. If you ask a guy who makes 6 figures a year, he's going to say he needs 7 to be happy.
More.
And 8 more. So more of what I have will do better than what I got.
Yeah, but the statistic
the
is,
ego
they're
is,
saying the fame is now one of the first 3,
Exactly.
which is scary because if that's all people are wanting to strive to be before, it used to be.
Well, it's not very scary. It's part of their awakening, and even collectively. So everything we're going to go through right now collectively in the world, like Putin wants control, right? He wants. This is all still material. This is from ego.
Yes.
Okay, then what happens? Then what happens? Like it's pushing us in a very vulnerable, uncomfortable position where we are going to go through the phase of being mad, being angry, judge, and then where do you go?
Yes.
You already did that.
I know. And
are you going to pull the guns?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, what are you going to do?
I know.
There's going to hit a limit where what are you going to be left with? That's your own soul.
Well, if you want recognition. That's what people always want. For ego, ego wants to be noticed, right? And it's like that's why people, they dress right, they want a good car, but all of a sudden you cross that line, you're now famous. Then all of a sudden there's like, holy quit, everybody's looking at me. Now I feel like I'm being judged. Now I became famous, and
they are.
They're looking at me. All of a sudden, I can see like women have a tendency to be more physically attuned to what they look like than guys. They always say guys really don't give a crap after a while. Somebody that you look at
It's metrosexuals.
Exactly. But you see a woman that might have been, in her 30s and 40s, all of a sudden that aging process is what you see more plastic surgery with older
They're
women.
all over.
Yes, older women actresses that are like, oh my God, I've
and then
lost
what happens
though? Yes.
Then they start looking, they go overboard. So it's just like
and they
they're
become
seeking.
monsters.
So everything everything that you keep seeking in the material is going to come back and be like, it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough.
And then you get somebody like Betty White. who was like, just was great. She had a sense of humor.
Exactly.
And I'll bet you she had probably a wonderful life because it didn't seem like she didn't take herself too damn seriously.
And she was the most beautiful too.
And she had
because of what was
soul.
inside her.
Exactly, I know. Exactly. She
and
was no Raquel Welch,
and it's
but
almost,
she was more than.
Exactly, but she didn't go down. She ended up, that was her, everyone would say she emitted beautiful, she was beauty. She was the epiphany of beauty. But the ego will do this, give me a crumb, and you take the crumb. Give me another crumb.
I know.
Give me another crumb.
Right.
And I just had this with my sister. She was like, tell me, when I'm intuitive within your family, they start asking me, I go, you know what? No, I can't. Because I went in and I, you feel like you have this obligation and I hate doing it.
Yes.
So I went in and I go, Karen, I'm not doing this. And she goes, just tell me this. I go, no, I'm not doing it. I go, because, and then you guys, honestly, I opened my eyes because I close my eyes sometimes when I get it, and I heard it was like Jesus said, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Are you going to listen to me or now are you going to listen to her?
Yeah.
I looked at her eyes and she was like this, and I'm telling you, the intensity, fierce ego I felt in her eyes. Oh God. It was like, she's like, just give me a crumb. And I'm like, and that's why I said it now, because it's like, and then what happens when you have that crumb and that crumb, and then
very true.
the very thing you're trying to achieve in your life, you're actually anchoring into the old, because you're coming from ego, not spirit. It's not serving you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I'm not going to play a part of that, because now I'm people pleasing, so my ego now is involved. So I can only control myself, and it may upset you, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to do it
because it becomes an addiction to know.
Yeah,
So
and I won't even know.
With the young people, they need to know that they have this intuition.
Yeah.
To trust themselves.
Well, I want to finish this because this is really important,
Yeah.
because that intuition is up here, right? So if you're at the okay, that's fine. You know many people who get through life right here.
Right.
Yes.
Those are the
Hold on
people
one
who
second.
have.
Okay. All right. I just got guys
ahead.
on the job today.
Oh no, that's fine. So this is where you have everything comfortable, but then they start to get the comfortable becomes uncomfortable at some point, right? Because you have everything in the material, you should be happy. But what's missing is gratitude. So so you have like gratitude, and you have like just having fun, and then eventually freedom,
free spirit,
all the stuff. Yeah, free spirit, and then you have here now you get bliss, but then you get peace, and then that's the oneness, because when you're here you have your awakening that everything you ever really needed is within this one love. This is now what you're seeking, and you don't have to seek it. So you may go up I'm seeking this, but then you get to this point, you go, there's nothing to seek, just be it. Be it. And now this is where the flow of energy, where you start to see life flow to you. You see the signs, you see that thing with your life flows. So then you go, whoa, mind blown. So I'm just supposed to be in this now. That's when you get this concept of only one time and space. And in that time and space, you just have to be in the receiving mode. To be in the receiving mode, you need to be at the vibration of love, starting with self.
So when you say
starting with self,
when you say the vibration, what it reminds me of is a radio wave, okay, which ebbs and flows. So I think some of us have this expectation, or I think I do, if I'm on this journey of getting better, that it should be an upward trajectory with no hiccups.
No,
but in reality, there's sometimes
no, it shouldn't be like it needs to be ebb and flow.
Exactly. But me, my own expectations of I was doing great yesterday.
You're hard on yourself,
and
that's where we have to. No, that's an important part, because you're going to be having a blissful day where everything flows. The very next day, you may be down here.
All right.
And I used to judge myself too, but then I had this beautiful message saying, hey, when you're cleansing your inside, you're bringing up some deep. Don't think you're not going to face what's coming out. You need to when it comes to the surface, you got to face it.
Yeah, but this is where empaths start to protect themselves when they drop down, and then it's like, I don't want to go back down.
So that's where
then they become okay by staying protective.
And a lot of times they drop because they absorb energy. But here's the thing: if you're truly here taking care of yourself, where you're grounding and protecting yourself, you're going to have less of that. But if you do have a moment, it's not to go to guilt, because that's the trickery, because guilt is down here. There's many things down here, but that's one. So what you want to say is okay, embrace it, because if you embrace that day, that's a shadow element that is on its way out. So the more you have guilt towards, I had a bad day, what's the next day going to be? It's going to get worse and worse, because you're being too judgmental on yourself. You're not loving yourself. So breathing and just knowing that you have that love.
The emotion is excuse the French, a fucked up thing sometimes. Because, when I'm doing well, sometimes there's that feeling as if the other shoe's gonna drop.
Exactly, because of your trauma.
I'm not
because
prepared.
the pendulum's gonna swing the other way.
Because I'm not prepared. Because here they say, an optimist will have a pretty good position on life. A pessimist is well prepared.
Yeah.
Right. So,
that's true. Well, I will say that
is so true.
But
they're guarded. So the problem, I think, when I find things are going really well at times, is my mind will say this is going to be short-lived. And when things start going shitty, I always think this is a permanent condition.
Yeah.
And those are my two, I think, emotional responses.
It's also your control, because you want to control, you want to make sure you're ready to fight the battle.
But I'm not an optimist. I'm not a pessimist.
I know what you're saying.
But you know how I described myself in some forum once? I said I am an eternal optimist with an underlying layer of impending doom. That is what, and that's how I describe myself. Is I'm really an optimist, and everything I do, I say, I encourage. But there is that level that,
Can I ask you though? Does it take you away from the moment when all is well? No, honestly,
it doesn't. I'm able to live in the good a lot. Now, the only reason why I think that I don't spiral, I think because you've known me for 45 years. But so I think even though when I've met challenge and circumstances in life, I remember being sentenced.
Yeah, you were like the most optimistic bottom there was.
I was headed to Cook County Jail for the second time, and then I was sentenced to a year in Cook County. And I remember going there thinking, well, I always try to.
He was so optimistic
about
it. When I went to visit him, he was like,
it's not bad to play cards. You know what I said? I said, next time I come here, because I wore my cowboy boots, I said, next time I come here, I'm wearing more comfortable shoes. I kind of resigned next time I come there. So my idea that this was...
You were there then, huh?
So next time I come, but I remember it not being as bad as... I remember going into there thinking, well, it's going to be an experience.
Well, that's kind of good, though.
Which was kind of good. It's like going on vacation to someplace you've never been
because
to.
you can't undo what was done, so you might as well embrace the shadow of it.
And then it was like, when I got there, I'm thinking it should be worse than what it is. Because we got to watch TV, we played cards, we smoked, we smuggled
in. The system's messed up.
we said, remember you guys smuggled in cigarettes, hid them out in the air. We were on a work crew. I was able to go out and get smokes. Other people got pot. I'm thinking this wouldn't be bad if it was co-ed. I get food. I got a work crew. I knew my roofer was in there. I got friends.
That is hilarious.
But it was like I'm an adaptable guy. So
but
here's the thing. So but that's the thing. To be accepting of a lifestyle that is less than human is kind of like really, and to never look at my behaviors as what drove me to that in the first place.
Right.
So basically, I try to be an optimist even in the worst conditions. There's got to be a pony with all this dog shit. All this horse shit. There's got to be a pony in there somewhere. Is what, like they said, the optimistic kids cleaning out the barn. There's got to be a pony around here somewhere with all this horse shit, right?
But here's the trickery though, because if you start, because anything that pulls you out of the now means you're no longer living, you're existing.
Right.
So you're not only living in this moment, but the moment you get pulled up here thinking, okay, well, I got to start strategically planning if this happens. Now it's good to be prepared, but just as long as it's not taking you away from the peace that is being gifted to you in this now.
Yes.
And this is the thing, you can waste your whole life. You can live a life without living. True. You can you can experience. You can exist in life without living.
Exactly. It's preparation for tomorrow, and there's always going to be preparation for tomorrow. And I think I sometimes still do. Sometimes, you know where?
I think most people do this.
You know where I live the most in the here and now is when I'm helping somebody with a challenge.
Look at that. Where is that? That's in love.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. That's why this is so important.
Very true.
And that is one of those things.
I agree too.
And I always feel so good, don't you? Always feel so
good. Because you guys, you're working in the light. You're working from your soul, and this is where abundance is. Do you notice when you're doing that life flows? You have a good day, things just kind of this effortless.
But sometimes afterwards, I've done some like 4th, 5th steps with people, and it's like a 5-6 hour deal. Yeah. But really, and committed to it, really feel energized. And for 2 days later, I just feel like I just got squeezed.
That's what I'm trying to figure out too.
But then then all of a sudden there's something new that comes from that. So sometimes,
there's a blessing within it.
So sometimes it's exhausting to be.
So not fight the exhaustion, you mean?
Well, I'm not necessarily fighting the exhaustion, but I've come.
No, I'm thinking I do. Like after it's like, God, I am so. But it feels so good and it's so flowy. But then I'm like zonked, and maybe but you're right. Now that I think about it, in the past, within the exhaustion, I do get a lot of and there's stuff for myself personally.
Well, I read something once about people that are introverts by nature. When a normal person will go to a party, come home, and they feel great. An introvert will go to a party, they come home, and they're exhausted because they feel as if they've had to put on a persona. It was exhausting to be somebody that they weren't for such a long period of time. So, but I sometimes used to think I'm an introvert. I always still say I'm an introvert that pretends I'm an extrovert. And people that know me say, no, you're not, because naturally you have a tendency to step up and not being asked to by nature. I have a tendency to take the lead, and I don't think it's necessarily egocentricity because I hate to be known. Believe it or not, I hate when we're going to do something. What I always have to focus on doing when we do one of these retreats is to not focus on. I always take a quiet time, do a meditation to say, give me direction on how to try to make a difference. This has nothing to do about how well I do in the eyes of my peers, but it's the difference that I can make in one person. This is what my objective is.
Right.
So it takes away from it takes away from that concern of self.
Yes.
And which pulls me from ego.
Your intention is in the right place.
My intention is away from me, and it's not about self-recognition.
Yeah. So you're definitely being authentic in those moments. Yes. I think that it's for you to reflect on.
What happens though in life, and then all of a sudden, there's something that happens, and I understand with people that become successful. And when because there's some meetings that I go to, everybody knows me. I used to chair a lot of meetings. I walk in, and Brian, everybody, it's like, man, I remember doing something stupid once. And I had to make an amends to somebody. I yelled at Steve in a meeting. I had to make an apology. And I found it to be good because it took me down a couple of rungs. And I made an amends to the group. And I'd say, this is good for me to let you guys know that I don't walk on water here, that I can still be a dick, an asshole, and be rude once in a while. And I said it felt good to not feel as if I have to now live up to an expectation of being and the guy that has it, I'm fallible. And I'm not the guy who has it. So there was a reward in being fallible. And
being human, really.
Yes, and being human. I talked to a customer about that who teaches, this customer that we had the inspections this morning. I had to wait for the inspectors. And she teaches business, how to create inspiration in business to, you can't just pound people and say row and whip and whatever, but you got to encourage. And she goes, it's where I was talking about, I yelled at somebody, one of my suppliers once, really bad. We're building a house and he screwed something up, and he was on the job site and I yelled at him big time. And I felt bad. I called him up. The next day he was out there delivering something, and I came up to him, thought I was going to yell at him again, and I apologized to him. And I said, listen, I treated you poorly, and that guy became a good friend. And he was now, that relationship was better than if I would have never was an asshole to him in the beginning.
Right, exactly.
And because me being human about it and owning it, it's as if he mattered more than just, hey, thanks, have a great day. It was.
And a lot of times when you have those moments where you're like yelling or upset, there's that higher you going.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're not judging you over this, but you're gonna have some ahas over this. But it's good to own your.
It's good to fail in the light of your fellows.
And when you do that, you become deep. Yes. So we got to talk. We have to talk, and also prepare them that you are going to have a day here. Yes. But here's the other thing: is what I do, just really because maybe this is something we can implement for them. Is a lot of people do have a hard time living in the now because of the what ifs. Yes. So, and I'm sure I've done it with you before. I take their, on a session, I'll be like, okay, what if it happens? Oh, well, I walk them down that road.
Right.
And they're like, oh, well, I don't want to do that because people would think I'm, if I, let's say, talk to my boss for a raise. Yes. I don't want to talk to because what if they say no? Okay, what if?
I know, exactly.
What if they're...
If you don't do it, it's a definite no.
Yeah.
But if
yeah.
you
For
do
yeah.
it, yeah.
Yeah. I
it's
go.
enough
Okay.
of them.
So let's walk down that road. Okay. So you and they say no. What then? You go back to your other job, yeah, but or maybe they're going to get rid of me. Okay, so they get rid of you. Then what?
Yes.
Well, then I'm out of a job. Okay, then what? Well, then I'm going to have to look for another. Okay, then what?
Then
and then they go through it, and it's like
fear.
Really a lot of times it comes down to being alone and dying.
Yeah,
exactly.
It starts at this place where it seems unrelated, but if I walk them down that, and then if they're ready for I don't do this to everyone, but people who are they're on the brink of that awakening, I go, okay, so then you're alone. Okay, what? Are you ever really alone? Put yourself there. Like I put themselves there, and it's like if they're ready for it, they go, oh, no, I'm not really alone. I'm never really alone. And then I go, okay, well then start living life.
Yes.
Because you're always going to be okay. It just, and the other thing that's important is what the ego tells you in the mind is usually a story so dramatic, so out there that wouldn't you just, what a shame to not live life because you are so anchored into a story that is based off of fiction, most likely.
Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, it seems absurd when you put it that. Yeah, but doesn't it seem absurd then to you? Like, what am I doing?
Right.
It's like, do you go see a movie about zombies taking over the world? Do you walk out of that movie theater like, oh my God, like, did you hear the zombies are coming? People think you're foolish. So it's like that's what we do every day, though. We do it every day.
So would you say most people are two-faced? And who I was, and it was an assignment given. I came back and I was a carpenter. I was kind of a troublemaker. I'm the son of, I'm the brother of. All I was in my mind was a reflection of my community, my society, or what I knew or did. And then all that, and then I came back and my next assignment is, who else are you? It's like. Just all I was doing is looking at everything outward.
Yeah, sure.
I'm a reflection
that's
of
powerful.
So that's the thing.
So who are you?
Well, it came down to it, a child of God. That's who I am.
That's a powerful one we can do for them.
Really
I love
is.
that.
Who are you is the good question, because we always define ourselves by, I'm a guy with, I'm a Jeep lover, I'm a carpenter, I'm what I do. And you start saying, well, what if that goes away? You become less than.
When you die, who are you?
Who are you? I know.
Right?
Well, most people, they might not have I'm dead, I'm no longer. But who am I here now? Am I more than just a reflection of my peers? So if I am...
and everyone recognizes that, no matter what. I think they know there's something else going on that they don't give enough attention to.
And it's called the still small voice. I think that exists in every man, woman, and child, but that we drowned out through the noise of, to be...
Yes.
We're competitive. There's a movie out there called Keeping Up with the Joneses. It's called The Joneses.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it was with David Duchovny.
Yeah.
And it was about these. It was a great movie
good.
because it was basically looking at the need for human beings to keep up with the Joneses.
Absolutely.
These people were corporate people. They weren't married. They moved into a community, and they started buying. They had stuff that they bought. They bought a new grill. And hey, look at this! I got this new grill, and the neighbors would want to buy the grill. Got a Lamborghini. It was a very affluent neighborhood. New golf clubs cost me $3,000 for this. They were basically influencers before internet came out, and people.
And then the ego guy, the guy that kept trying to, he killed himself. Yes,
Yeah.
And the kid was actually gay or something, something. But a whole storyline about what do we try to do?
Yeah.
Is
what we're trying to.
All these secrets and stuff were coming forth from the Joneses.
His ego just got so out of control. He kept buying the Lamborghini when the one guy bought it. He bought everything. It's like, I can't keep up.
I can't keep up with this
broke.
But moreover, it wasn't the guy that became, maybe it was, overwhelmed with not being able to keep up with the Joneses, but the idea that that's what we try to do, that we gain our self-worth based upon what we value worth. And what do we value worth is what, on these tangibles. So
it needs to be defined differently.
And sometimes it's a decimal point. Sometimes it's, I thought, for me to be happy, I want to get my license back. This is 30 years. I need to get my license back. And then I thought, okay, I got my license. And I had an old truck. I'm thinking, I want to get a new truck. I want a Ford.
So it's that crumb that like,
yes,
I got my
exactly.
license.
I want a Ford
Okay,
F-250 king cab short bed pickup truck. I bought a brand new one.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, boy, this thing would look better with bigger tires.
Right. It never is enough.
And then it's like, son of a bitch, this thing's a gas hog. Then son of a bitch, it gets
and this stuff kind of starts very early, because when you think about as kids, it's I can have a toy. Oh, give me something else. It really quickly. It's
more
them going through that is for us to reflect as older adults. Like, okay, we're training that is how. So how much more powerful as parents can we say to say, you know what? Everything you need is within, and to start that early is great because
here's you know what I valued more as a kid? The dryer box.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they say the box.
That inspires creativity.
And that's another thing. Creativity is here too.
Exactly.
So creativity is so close to the creator, God.
It is,
right?
Yes. I love creativity.
So that's the thing that all of a sudden you buy the kid all the toys and they're out in the backyard playing with the box. It's like, really?
That's so true, though. You hear that all the time.
We could have just waited till the next day and stole all the boxes from the neighbors, and you guys would have made a fort.
Yeah, and I do want to touch on, what we always touch on, don't die with the music in you.
Yes.
You know, it's like Wayne Dyer, that's his big
Yeah.
quote. So it's like we all have something to play.
And that's what this is about.
Yeah.
You're living your purpose.
Right.
And what a shame to, why live a life based on other people?
Right.
Yeah, music is.
You know how you find your purpose? Is to strive and grow, because I didn't come out of the gates when I was 9 years old saying I want to be what I want to be. I figured I'm going to try, and I tried many different jobs.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I found, maybe the writing was on the wall, because when I was in high school I got D- and D's.
Yeah, me too.
And then I didn't even graduate high school.
It's always the same in so many ways. Always
Except I got an A+ in woodshop.
Oh, there you go.
So woodshop, I got an A+. I was stoned every day, but I got an A+ in woodshop. So I should have known I should have been in the trades out of the gates. But I did all these other whatever jobs.
This shows a lot about the school system is so wired to, like you could have easily gone thinking you weren't smart. You got D-.
Yeah, I wasn't. Exactly.
But in a way, but you were in your way. Like when you start to step into who God made you to be for your purpose, you're brilliant, and there's no one else that can do what you do.
Yeah.
So if we say to the kids, and we'll say source love, of course, but like if we can get them to realize each and every you are brilliant. You may not be brilliant in what you're being forced to be, but you're brilliant in who you were born to be.
Exactly.
Oh, that's what they gotta. They gotta start living by that.
And it's like
instead of hiding from it.
And how do you find a lot of people? But a lot of people will say, well, what am I brilliant in? And that's where you go, how do you find what you're brilliant in? And it's follow your bliss.
And follow your bliss.
What makes you happy.
And I said, what the phrase
and face your fears.
and failure is the evidence of effort. So failure is good.
Fail and face your fears and fail. And here's the thing: is if you try one thing and you fail at it and you really don't like it, well, that's something you can cross that off your list.
Okay, I suck at that.
Yeah, and you know what? You're still on the path. It's just sometimes you're on a path and there's little blocks.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean you get off the path because you don't get off the path. Face it, demolish it, and keep moving on because you're on the path.
There's also a quote by Robert Brault that says, not reaching my goals is I forget how he put it, is it's not obstacles in my path, it's an easier path to a lesser goal.
Okay.
So for me not to succeed is sometimes I go, that's easy.
Yeah.
So the easier, softer way for many people seems to be the path they want to take.
Yeah.
But if that easier, softer path is not fulfilling, I read a philosophy that says the only benefit to easy is it's easy. And it's not easy, to be, I'm an explorer by nature. It's like, let's try this trail, but I love hiking. It's like, let's go up there and check that out, And the well-paved road is where I find to be mediocrity, mediocrity. I don't find this, I'm most free when I'm in the woods, or I'm hiking, or I'm in the mountains.
And that's where so when you're put yourself in that place right now, you feel light, right?
Yes.
So when you feel these fear, anger, your body feels dense. It actually gives you the signal. Maybe your heart's racing. Maybe you got a knot in your stomach. Your body is always telling you where you are on this vibrational scale.
Yes, right.
And if you just stop and tune into it, like, wait, is this argument serving me? No, it's not. You know what? I'm just gonna say, okay. You have this win. I'm gonna walk away. It's like you constantly have to be tuning in. So I think that's so important. But also, what you're saying is so important because look where that class, you getting that A+ and looking at it and being like, whoa, there's something here. and maybe you didn't go straight to it, but you got yourself onto this.
Yeah.
It was it, but that was somewhere a seed was planted inside you.
That there was something that I was naturally good at, and I think once I tried it again, there was a natural propensity to be good at it. So even though I tried many other avenues, there was something that later.
But
in life
something
that
pulled you back to it, and I think that's
to it.
another thing where we have to also get them to relax on their journey.
Yeah.
Because I think see my son going through so much stress of college, and I said, you know what? I know this is important, but at the same time, you're gonna end up where you're gonna end up in the right place.
Yes.
Even if it's not the right place, it's gonna be the right place because it's gonna get you to the right place.
It's kind of weird because I can't just say I landed in the field of carpentry because it was my passion. I found that I was working in office or I lied my way into being a quality control guy in Weber marketing systems.
I kept thinking, really?
Yeah, I know. I was packing boxes because I worked hard. They promoted me, and they thought I had an education, and I didn't. And I did pretty good, except for my addiction got in trouble. But I'm getting fired. I found carpentry, working concrete then carpentry.
Yeah.
What I really liked about that is the boss would bring a cooler of beer at lunchtime. This is a job that I could drink at. It's not only condoned, it's purchased by the boss.
Oh my gosh.
So I found that, the
but you're
trade,
very talented too, because you use your creativity.
yeah, but so me finding carpentry was not necessarily what I fell into. Say, this is just what I need to do. It created an environment that was acceptable to party while you worked. So
but underneath it, like she was saying, there is that energy of create, and it's so funny because everyone has a gift, right? And no matter if they're an accountant or a lawyer or an artist, there's a creative energy there. True. They create solutions, so it's connecting you to the creator. Yes. It's kind of like another sign you're in the right path.
I do remember even though then, and I'd be working on jobs, and I'd have customers say, "Why does it seem like that you care more about what you're doing than your boss does?" So even though I was in something, maybe an addiction, there was something that people recognized that I had this affinity towards this, and more keyed into quality than the owner of the company. And I was told more than one customer to start my own business. So I'm thinking, I'm never going to start. That's hard work.
Yeah,
I'll just be told what to do and swing a hammer. But then I found that I really started.
I have a question really quick for both of you. The more that you now thinking of it from a broader perspective, the more that you trusted what brought you bliss, do you feel that played a part in overcoming addiction?
I think it could have earlier on for me. I think that teenagers can avoid the path that we went down if they found their true soul, and lived it.
Like you were really enjoyed your job. Yeah, there was alcohol provided, which of course feeds both the create. But was there a point where that your was something? Well, I guess what I'm also saying is like, okay, aside from bliss, but more confidence in who you are and what you're good at. Do you feel that plays a role in putting more? Because I feel like watering the flowers. At some point, everyone who said you're good at what you did, you should do this. Your filmmaking is amazing. Like that's feeding the flowers. Was there a point where you feel like that maybe helped give you more strength to conquer?
Yes, because I still remember a situation. There was this guy. His name was Notre Dame Mike. He was graduated from Notre Dame, and he would give me rides. This 5 years into sobriety, I still had no license. So this guy would give me rides, and I was, believe it or not, I was quiet and withdrawn and maybe insecure, and I wouldn't say much. Yeah. And at one time, he gave me a job at his house to renovate part of his house, his kitchen, and some things. And I came over to his house. And then I put my work apron on, and then I remember him looking at me. It's like you just became a different guy, Yeah. You put on that apron, and you're like all of a sudden Superman with your whole different attitude, and all of a sudden there's a confidence in who you are. As soon as I put on that work apron, he said there was a transformation, and I still remember that.
That was a good thing he said to you to reflect on.
I can still remember that remarkable comment that I didn't realize that I had a confidence in who I was because I did what I had a passion doing. And without it, I felt like a misfit still.
And that's where we got to get to.
And you were good.
That's where we got to get to. Behind all that.
behind
and
all
that's
that.
where
So-
you can kind of intersect it. I
Yes.
believe you really can.
Yes.
At 12 or 13 years old, you can
Right.
intersect the people
Well,
going
yeah.
down the path we want.
Because when that apron's not on, you wore a different
Right.
hat,
I did
and it
work
was the
different- I
hat
worked
of.
with whoever I was.
Yeah,
and
but
I
you
felt-
didn't feel, but your
Yes.
energy shifted. Your
did.
light was dimmer.
Because
You didn't.
yes, I was not an experienced person among my peers, but I was a superior amongst my peers when I was in. They hired me to do a job they couldn't do, and I felt as if I was empowered. But then you take off that apron, and I'm a passenger in his car heading to a meeting that I don't know the subject matter. I know a friend of mine says he took a French class once, and he showed up. He'd never spoke any French, and there's some people that did, and he didn't. He never showed up again. You know, that was Ron from the Zoom meetings, and he says I never showed up to the second French class because I didn't speak French. Some people did. I knew I was there to learn it, but I wasn't going to be around some people that already did, and I don't know. I felt inferior. I just never wanted to be there.
So it's like finding that golden nugget that is within everyone.
Yes.
And
Now-
everyone has
Yes.
it. And if we can
Right.
get that point across, if you're living,
Self-love. I think it really is
because
self-love.
if you're
It's
in realizing
it's a
that
segue,
if
is
they're
what it
living
really
and
is.
breathing, they have purpose.
Yes, exactly.
If you're living and breathing, you have purpose. This doesn't just happen. This
Yes.
creation of
Right.
this doesn't just happen.
Right.
So if we could get them to trust in that, we could get them to trust in us, to guide them to be still enough to hear, to talk, and then if they find that golden nugget, I do feel like that is a huge part of catching them before they go down either depression or addiction or anything like that,
Well, there's a categorization that they say I'm in the service industry, and I really realize that today I am in the service industry.
Mm-hmm.
When I put on my work apron, I was able to provide something to the table that the table needed.
Yeah.
But I realize in life that today I'm in the service industry. What I try to do when I get involved in any enterprise, I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to be of service.
Right.
And when I do that, I feel as if there's a purpose, and it's to make a difference. It isn't for self-glorification and self-satisfaction, but it's to make a difference. And in and of itself, that brings satisfaction. And
But
which is
again,
kinda
we got to
weird.
remember when we're talking to young people,
I know.
it's still all about that.
It is.
Ego. Their ego is
Exactly.
growing at that
It
point.
is.
So
Right,
we have to
right.
But there
get
is.
to their ego.
But they
There's-
still have that
there's-
higher self that is
Right.
will be like when you talked and you can tell people were receiving. But it's about you had that where you take the apron off and
And I
but then there was
reverted
a
back to it.
but there's an important part of once they find their what they're good at.
Yes.
Okay, what you just said was powerful because what you said was you were bringing purpose. So that really is the core. So
Yes.
knowing, I can bring purpose in building things and helping, but it was behind that. Yes, I was using that skill to bring, but what I was bringing was a purpose. So everyone then can bring that purpose in other elements of their. That's when you stop wearing the different hats.
A dentist is got a passion in trying to help people get overcome. That's the thing. Everybody's got a
That's
niche-
what
a
shifted
niche,
for me,
and
actually.
is to find your purpose and what is
Yeah.
your purpose. So when it came down
Yeah.
to it, and today my purpose wasn't to be a carpenter, but I found that it gave me purpose to be able to do something that I could do well to help others. It didn't matter what that manifestation was, but
Yeah.
the best thing that I had, my best skill, well, I was able to use that to benefit others that didn't have those skills.
Yeah, and I
So-
think that's important to stop taking the hat off when you're done, or taking the apron off in your
Yes.
case. But it's like, because I realized that the moment I started to not hide who I was
Right.
in other areas, so like I'm easily the person who, if I go to the store and I'm really into angel numbers being a sign, if my total is $4.44, I'm going to say something to that. I'm like, oh my God, can you believe that? And then it'll propel a conversation. I'm not forcing it, and that person may not reply and look at me like I'm weird, or we may have a great conversation. But what I did do, no matter what the outcome is, I didn't disservice myself, or I didn't and it doesn't always have to be talking, but holding the door open.
Yes.
Because I know that there's only this now, and there's only this moment, and there's only this opportunity in front of me to be of service,
Yeah, exactly.
and that would be a way of bringing a service,
now benefits
bringing that,
yes.
and that is what I think is so important, because I
Yes.
truly feel life flows continuously. There is that life is abundant, life
So-
is joyful, and it's when
Yes,
I'm in
it
the
is.
vibration of love, where I'm fulfilling my purpose of being of service, where it's a continuous flow, and
But
that to me was
there's a bigger layer between that, because sometimes there'll be an expectation of reward. You say, what is the motives behind your
Exactly.
effort? And if the motives behind my effort, I do good.
And it doesn't work though, because it's not a true vibe.
Good. What I'm here to.
That's true.
You know, so I got to really look at what are my motives. So I funny. I thought. I went to the village and I went in there for inspections. I went in there to apply for a permit. And I went over to planning, went over to the guy, and the guy I was nice, he was nice, you know. So I went over to the other side and dealt with finance, and I was nice, she was nice. And I go, yeah, this is kind of working, you know, my charm. And then I go to the lady, I haven't been back in this village for 15 years, so, you know, sometimes it works to be nice. And she said, I go, how long have you been here? She says, I've been here for about 11 months. But I love it here because everybody is so nice. And I laughed to myself and it's like, I took it personal. You know, I thought they were being nice to me because of who I was. They were
you still manifested it because it's all in your experience.
But I could have been a dick and they were still nice. It wasn't.
No, not really. Because it's your. Thank you.
But here's the thing. Now, I laughed at myself because sometimes people are just kind. They just are. And I could be
I know
a thorn in their side, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to affect who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
So I could have been a bit of a jerk. I could have been just even keeled. I have a tendency to be like you. I'm a little bit more gregarious, a little bit more open, I'll make a joke or comment on something to help somebody feel better.
Yes.
I always try to leave a room better than I found it. It's either cleaning it up or making a comment that I feel as if is uplifting.
Yeah,
I always feel that it's important to do.
Right.
And it's just by nature, I just try to, especially if I see somebody that's a bit cranky.
Yeah,
try to
it's a challenge. I like it.
To challenge them.
I love
to
that. I do
something
the
nice.
same.
And it's an amazing thing to see.
Oh my God, you can see the shift. It's like you see them evolve to a higher level right in front of your eyes. I actually love the challenge.
Sometimes I want to stay in their vibration, because of my own ego. I'm like, stop it, they're acting like that.
Yeah.
But I have
it's fun. It's actually fun,
guys.
Pick it up.
Yeah, so I just think, so when I was speaking at the high school, there was a man that was speaking with me while he was speaking after me.
Yeah.
And he was talking about his son had just killed himself a month ago.
Yeah.
And his son was famous.
Yeah.
His son was a musician. He was playing at House of Blues. He was all over. I mean, this guy, I don't know his name, but anyway, and he said that his son would always tell him, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy for this.
So we
So we
that
gotta
bar.
that's what I keep trying to say is we gotta get to that bar.
The motives.
That again is going to come from the
That's kind of
source.
where I hit on I've got to get off the segue. We only got time here. But the motives behind what we do. And now the motives behind what we do, that there is that random act of kindness that we do with. Now, would I have been okay being nice to the cranky lady? Would I still be okay with her not becoming nice because of my
That's
efforts?
where you have to.
And that's what I got to get. That my job is to plant the seeds, not
Exactly.
Not
you may not be there when the flower blooms,
exactly
but
right.
you are still part of the process.
Let that ripple effect lay where it lays.
And what is she teaching you too? Because
Exactly,
she's also playing. So I believe we are masters and teachers for each other,
we are.
and it goes back and forth. One day I may be someone's student. I may be someone's master teacher, and the other person may be the student. The next day I'll be the student. Maybe in the same scenario at the same very time. We are both masters and students at the same time. And I think that is important.
Have you ever read the book Spirituality of Imperfection?
No.
It is by Ernest Kurtz and Catherine Ketchum.
Oh, okay.
It's worth a read. It's called Spirituality of Imperfection.
Okay.
And Ernest Kurtz is the main author, but Catherine Ketchum is co-author. But it is based on storytelling, and they speak about, it's worth the read. So it's a pretty insightful.
Right.
But it's cool, and it's a lot about storytelling and about the master. Some of it's saying, they asked the guy, why do you ride your bike? And the master asked one student, why do you ride your bike? Well, because it's more practical to ride by bike than it is to walk. And so, the other guy, why do you ride your bike? Because it's good exercise. It's like, why do you ride your bike to the other guy? And he goes, I ride my bike to ride my bike.
Yeah.
I said, well, you're now the master. I am now your student.
Exactly.
And it's like, so it's kind of some of those stories in there, but it's about a lot of the old Eastern.
I feel like, Judy, you
ideals.
probably have a way of, because when to get to that segue, because you said now there's that layer of doing things because you want to get in
a positive outcome.
You have to, but real true awakening is doing it because it's who you are.
Yes.
Right.
It's knowing, remembering that's who you are.
Exactly.
Now I think like when you study Buddhism, you must have some type of some because I haven't studied Buddhism, but do they teach about how you disconnect from the exterior motives, don't you? A lot.
From ego.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
mindful.
that's kind of what but your young kids are like, oh, I want to better my life. And yeah, your life will be better. But if you're coming in with this, my sisters struggle with this. They're trying to do all this spiritual stuff, but I look at them and they think they're awakened, and I'm like, but you got a long way to go because you're doing it to get this.
Yes.
And you got to do it because it's who you are, and it's like level.
So some of the assignments that I give people is, because I've seen the guys say, I did this and I did that, and then I told my wife, and then I did this. And they do it. Check mark.
Yeah,
I got the recognition.
It's like a little kid with their stars from school, right?
And I want the recognition.
I want the prize.
Trophy. But so I give them an assignment to do random act of kindness. Do one thing a day and don't get caught. That's good.
This is good, guys. The workshop.
Yes.
So we can have them be accountable to each other in their support groups.
Yes.
Where what did we do? Or whatever homework we give them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
let's give
them
them
could be that.
Let's give them assignment.
So a random act of kindness without so leaving something at someone's neighbor's door with no name.
Exactly.
Little things like that. Yeah, I love that.
Washing your sister's dishes or something. Do something that.
But are they still going to be attached to expecting a return from the universe?
Well, that's the thing. And that's what he's saying, don't get caught without recognition.
Yeah. All this is training.
And here's the thing. They're going to come back thinking that they're going to, and I had one guy that came back and says, okay, here's what I did. I said, I want to hear it. Because it's not getting caught even by me.
That's good.
So I said, I want you to do it for next week, once a day, and I don't want to have you tell me if you did it or not. And it's like, I don't even want to know that you've accomplished it. So really, this is ultimate. It's like, this is on you. And good. And then revel in your own, in your own process here.
And face the shit. Because even when you give something to someone no one knows about it, not even the person, you still could go, because one time I was at Starbucks, I'm always paying for the coffee behind me. Right. And I thought, no one pays for me. No one has gotten me anything. And I'm like, I went real ego, and I was
if you could pay for the guy in front of you, you might. But
right. So then I said, I thought to myself, I'm about to pay for the person behind me, right? And I said to myself, why does it feel not good?
Yeah, right.
Like it's starting to feel good.
Because you had expectation.
An expectation. And I go, but yet then if I don't do it, I feel kind of guilty.
Yes.
And then I had this, it wasn't being divinely led for me to do it. Ego was forcing me. Like ego can force you to do something because it's like, but you have to do it. If you don't do it, you're not a good person. It's like, wait a minute. So then you know what? I didn't pay for it. And I'm like, I'm not going to feel guilty. Yeah. Do you know, I went to get my kids ice cream. Yeah. They messed up the same night and I got all free ice cream. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So it's a slippery, where you, it shouldn't be like, because I'm starting to get like, it's kind of expensive, my ego's like, I'm always paying for people's
I should start following her around.
Right. I'm in the right car.
What's your point of it?
But it's so funny because but whenever I do it, like when it does feel divinely guided, it feels blissful. It feels good. You don't care about. In fact, I get my car the heck out of there because one time this old lady chased me. She goes, "I just want to say thank you for this." And I said, "Oh, that's nice. You didn't have to do that." So now I get the heck out of there. But it is interesting. Ego can trick you. It can trick you. So do it divinely guided.
It's as simple as holding the door for somebody and they don't say thank you. What's my attitude towards them?
Yeah.
If it's like, screw you. It makes us not want to do it. But if me holding the door is for the sake of, there you go.
And another thing I do, because of their being sensitive, I used to always, if I accidentally, cut in front of someone, be like, I used to look at them and they'd be like, ooh. Now I just wave and I go, I'm sorry. And I just keep on my path. I don't look for, validation that you don't hate me, for doing that, because you're usually looking.
Your apology was accepted.
I go woo, and I trust in it, and you know what? Now I rarely ever get. I always say I rarely get bad, bad drivers unless I'm not looking at them and they're there.
That's my challenge is the driving. I still have a challenge.
Question: are you in the right lane or the left lane most of the time?
Oh God, I don't even know.
I go to the left.
That's your problem. So if you're in the left lane, then you should be the one that's diverting and going. If you drive slow and you're preoccupied with the phone a lot, stay in the right fucking lane.
Yeah.
I drive fast though.
But my husband is the type where he'll, if a car's driving slow, and I'm like, whatever, well, he gets really road rage, right?
Yeah,
But then he always has to, when he passes the car, he always has to go like this and look at them. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, what is that? He's like, I'm teaching them a lesson. I'm like, by staring at them? How is that teaching them a lesson?
Well, I truly have found my true level of being at peace is really how I drive. And it's really, sometimes I'll be driving, I'll be with Laura, and there'll be somebody that goes, she goes, didn't that piss you off? It's like, no, maybe they
You know what? Driving is a good way to see where you are.
It is. Oh,
yeah.
totally.
It is.
It's for me.
So,
There was a funny, there was some quote that said, before you marry someone, you should see how they are when they don't have internet connection or something like that. Like some weird, I didn't say it right.
When I got
It was
married,
funnier.
I don't think we had internet.
I know. But like they were saying like a stressful situation or
Exactly.
see how they act when you're 10 minutes, late to something and we're
But there is a level of having a bad day.
Oh yeah, and that's fine.
There are some people that will just have a shitty day.
And allow yourself to be human. I mean, not to bring up Jesus because it's chained to spirit, to religion. But I mean, he did. I think God forsaken him.
Yes.
I mean, he did get angry. He did flip the tables over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember you probably read Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox.
Oh, I love
And
that
the
book.
Beatitude. So it's worth the read. It's and I remember when I was having some major God issues. I was sent to go read to a group that was reading Sermon on the Mount.
Okay.
And they said, we're not going to tell you if he was a son of God, or if he was a prophet, or just a carpenter with some good ideas, essentially. We're going to tell you what he said, and we're not defining who he is. We're telling you what he said.
Yeah.
And it was kind of how I was able to read that with that. What keeps a man in everlasting ignorance is that contempt prior to investigation.
Yeah.
That was my problem. So what I was told is to go in with an open mind to see what your spirituality and through when I became less rigid in my lack of understanding or my limited understanding is where then I became more aware that there is more.
Yeah.
Otherwise there's a limit of just what I could understand is it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Today I know that I believe that God He presents himself to humanity in varied ways. And I think all across the board. And for one to say, there was a guy, Father Richard Rohr, wrote a lot of books about spirituality and whatnot. And again, he was a Franciscan priest. But he once put it in a statement like, he goes, God is like the moon and religions are the man with the finger pointing.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, unfortunately, they start arguing amongst who's pointing with more conviction. They forget what they're pointing at, and the guy that's dressed better pointing, he means more.
Yeah.
They forget what they're pointing at, and they argue amongst themselves who's pointing with more, who's dressed better, where they're standing when they're pointing, how well they're doing.
And I do feel like when we show up being our purposeful self and really bringing our light, we're really emitting God to each other.
Yes.
And we're showing God to each other. And even the ones that trigger us, in a way, they're kind of pushing us. In a way, they're anything that we take away as, now if we walk away and we match anger with anger, then we don't get anything from it.
We don't.
But if we go with this experience, we look at them angry and say, this is uncomfortable. What am I supposed to do? Whether that's, politely setting boundaries, or if that's to put you go within. It's up to you to see the God within everyone, but it's up to us to also bring forth our light to others as well.
And respond to it with the prayer of St. Francis.
Yeah.
Bring kindness, understanding when there isn't.
Yeah.
So that
and also owning how you had apologized to owning that I did go a little too harsh. I did let my ego take over fully, where I need to be more in balance. This isn't about denying the human emotions or the humanness of us. It's about becoming in balance of being both.
Yes.
Humbly.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like being a humble God.
So if we're gonna have this date that we're gonna figure, we're gonna have to really get this thing.
Yeah, I know you guys.
So we
have
to.
So I think we got a lot discussed here, and I think there's a lot of that.
It's sifting through how to get it for. We gotta if we can all think of ideas of what we think it should be. Like if we sit in stillness and with a notepad or whatever, and just ask, just source to try to tell you to put it in order of what's the most important first opening.
Yeah.
And I think it might be one of these things where it evolves. Like, we probably won't be able to write down the first 5 classes, but we can go in with an intention of what the first message.
Of course, and I think we could build on it. So first and foremost, we think we need a bit of a mission statement. What are we actually trying to accomplish? And once we do that, I think really we need. I think letting it be organic is really good. But I really think we need some bullet points to drive us through
to
the
keep
agenda.
us.
Otherwise, we're going to go off on a rail and not get our way back to.
Yeah, I think we're all in this agreement that we want to bring them back to themselves. Like,
for sure.
To take their power back by also not running away from self, owning, but also we want them probably on the first meeting to know that they have purpose. They have purpose, and it's within them, and that they have everything they need to develop that and come forth living a beautiful life.
So the first class is going to be more of an introduction into that.
I think so,
So we're going to be trying to find our own purpose.
Right,
so it's really going to be an introduction to what this is going to be.
And probably, we also touch upon what an empath is. Because some people
have to do that.
So that might be, maybe that's going to be the first.
And then work on, then go to the Webster Dictionary and say, here's what an empath is, and expound upon that.
Yeah, right. Talk about the empath, and also talk about their true nature. That, because they're excited when you talk about them and how great they are.
And that's that's what we need to feed in the beginning to get them in.
Completely.
Because we want them to feel like they're worthy.
So let's talk about a little bit of a mission statement, something that then we're going to have to basically explain. They're going to come here and say, what are here for corn nuts and Cheetos?
They might be here first.
Maybe. So we'll see what happens. So, but then we send them. We got to send them. I don't think we're going to send them home with homework the first night. It's an introduction.
Reflections, maybe?
Maybe some reflections.
Inner reflection, maybe a meditation of being still within the uncomfortableness of self.
And then the other question, based on the structure of this thing, now getting back to our work hats, is the structure of it. Do we then, if this is going to be a series, let's consider this first one to maybe be a 12-week deal or something. So we got to have kind of a start and an end point.
Oh, sure.
And if we get people to commit to it, and then we can build upon. Now, I don't know that we should have an open door. Once it starts, I think once we have a sign
you're right,
up,
maybe.
then we just...
because it'll be hard. It'll be hard to build them up.
Exactly. So I think
I agree.
So I think we consider how long we can say 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever.
Right.
Have people commit to it. That's going to be on our introduction. That's I think some of those things we got to talk about. Because then as a group, we can come back and have some interchange on some of those. Once we get them kind of sharing a little bit on what some of their misguided ideas are and maybe what they're trying to, what they think they're getting from this, from the homework assignments of who are you? And a lot of times it's going to be, I am the son of, the brother of, the father, whatever they are.
I love that assignment, actually. That could be a take-home where, who are you? And keep asking yourself, what else am I?
Yes,
and see if they can come back to the next class with a deeper, and some people may be like, well, that's all I had.
And that's valid, and everybody could talk about that's everything you are. But let's say all of a sudden, I'm a great baseball player. It's like, well, what happens? You break your leg, you can't play baseball. You're less than a person, then, aren't you?
And when they start getting to the I'm kind. We're getting to a deeper. Okay.
Exactly. I'm an emotional person, and those are those things that's kind of who they are.
Right.
And those become a strength.
Exactly.
Because it's an identifying
and that's actually going to help them find that golden nugget that we build
upon.
upon.
It's good, you guys, to get these younger people to talk, because I remember at that age, I wanted to be the class clown. I wanted to be funny. And I do notice that a lot of young kids, that's either they're hiding and not really sharing, or they want to be funny. Because that's ego.
Because they'll hide behind the humor.
Yeah, so we got to get to genuine sharing.
Through their homework assignments, we're going to get them sharing about what they come up with.
We'll go around circle.
But we're also going to be talking to parents too, right?
Well, that's where we have to how do we get these kids to open up and be authentic when their parent is right there? It's almost like a separate.
I think that we if we did it for 4 weeks, I think every quarter we bring in the parents.
Okay.
And I think maybe the first one, the introduction to parents, could be there, and the 1 through 3 is only with the kids. 4, we bring in the parent as well. Okay, and then we can kind of talk about what we're trying to accomplish, where we've gotten to, So maybe the parents only get 4 sessions, but the students, they all get 12.
I feel like before, we may even want to do, even if it's a Zuma, informational for the parents about making that connection between their energy and the child's energy. Because I think that if the parent as the child gets into this, has that mentality of, okay, I need to kind of be aware. I may fail, but I have to be aware that when I blow up, my kid may reflect that, or if I have this, if they can even have awareness, even if they don't embrace it fully, if there's a way we can implement
let's look at this.
Or maybe we don't need to.
But here's the thing that I'm thinking that sometimes there's always that, what do they call the bait and switch?
Yeah.
So if we can get them into the room,
right?
Because we put too much emphasis on the parent, you're the problem. This kid's just responding to you poorly.
Yeah, no, I know that. That's why I thought maybe we should keep it separate because we don't want to give them a skip.
And I think we out of the gates, we focus on that we're going to be dealing with the problems of these kids. Some way that we put it, and to be, we're going to, okay, let's show up because these guys will fix your ass,
Yeah.
And we can get there. We can help these kids get a better understanding who they are and how to communicate that.
Right.
Not to put so much emphasis on their parent being there or not.
And that's the thing where, like, I think my thing is going, I just didn't know what time is it? 2:30?
I don't know. Maybe you gotta go.
Oh, 3:30?